that day, I live in a dream. I live in a
dream. Welcome to Only Trying to Help, the podcast where we try to help you be helpful to other people. We've got our good friend Ravi back. Ravi's been with us for episodes about helping folks through divorce, helping families who are changing and roles are shifting. I think we did an episode more recently about accepting flawed people. And so thanks for coming back. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, Kate. All is good. All is good. How are you?
Good. You know, it's freezing cold where you and I live right now, and I'm getting over being sick, but getting over it. So I'm on the other side of it, which is good. It's nice. We got some snow on the ground. Yeah,
That's
things
right.
are good.
It was single digits this morning, so I can only imagine there's a lot of cold in the air, at least for the East Coast of the United States.
Yeah, yeah. So, and I've never been very good at helping our international audience translate that to Celsius, but for
Oh
those
yeah.
who may be wondering how cold are we talking, probably around 10 degrees Fahrenheit or a little bit less than 10 degrees Fahrenheit. I'm sure there's some phone app they can look up exactly how cold that is. It's pretty darn cold.
It's
Yeah.
cold. Yep, it's cold.
Yeah.
Let me see what that.
Well, thank you for joining me today. I want to give a little context to why I asked you to be a part of this. Listeners may remember from last season, we did an episode with my good friend Mo McGee, and we talked about ways that people may want to help the homeless population where they live. And it kind of spun into this conversation about, making donations and helping causes. And we started to talk a little bit about the kind of help that feels more performative, the kind of help that feels like, well, you're just doing it to look like a helpful person, but you're not really making an impact. And we gave examples of things like, donating to, hurricane survivors your winter coats, but they live in, tropical Florida, and what do they need your winter coat for? Um, that feels more performative. Like you get to go tell all your friends that you made a donation and you get to feel like a good person today, but you didn't really have much of an impact. And Ravi, I have been thinking about how we need a whole episode now on this idea of performative helping because I think we do this in our personal relationships too, not just with like big causes or big things that happen in the world, but even just one-on-one in our relationships. I think this comes up. Um, I wonder just if you have any general thoughts about this idea of help that is a little bit more performative.
Yeah, I'm not sure how long the phrase has been around, but it obviously is something that when you're aware of it, I think to start off with, it kind of you kind of question like what's really going on here, right? Are you pretending? Are you putting on a performance? And I think I'd like to start there is that in the attempt of helping and in the attempt of being there for someone, it's actually the like it could have a little bit of a reverse effect that you kind of walk away wondering, is this like what's happening here? So someone that's performative helping is uh, they're they're saying they're going to do something or they're going to be there, but there might be either an agenda or it's not really genuine, or you almost feel like you're on the hook for something. Like like they're doing it so people can see, and then you're waiting for them to cash in their receipt, right? So
Yeah.
it's definitely not a good thing.
Yeah, you're raising the issue of how like it can actually harm relationships. And I think when you are looking around your social circle and you see a few people behaving in ways that you might wonder, is that just a performance? Is that just an act? you start to raise questions, as you've said, and it can make you a little bit suspicious of the things the person has said or done. It can feel, I think at times, a little bit manipulative, like people are trying to paint themselves in one light and make the world see them one way, but that's not their true selves. So there's something kind of tricky, sneaky, feels a little bit manipulative. And when that's happening, it actually can harm our relationships and kind of push each other away. I know, for example, when I sense that someone is not being their authentic self, I do feel a little bit of like a step back. Like there's a little more distance between us now. We're not as close as we once were. Maybe I'm holding them at an arm's length because I'm not sure about that person. And that's too bad. I like to hold people closely. I like to be close to folks. But when I get the sense that the things they are saying or doing are a little bit, phony or performative, I hold back a little bit more on my end too. How much do I want to give to this person who may not be giving their full self to me?
Absolutely. Yeah,
Hmm.
and I think you bring up a good point is that there's a level of vulnerability when help is involved, right? Whether it's you offering help or you receiving help. And when it feels inauthentic, when it doesn't feel genuine, or there's a question behind it, it taps into that vulnerability that we all want to protect. We all want to make sure that we're setting boundaries, or it's if it's an icky feeling, or even if we're questioning it, we're just like, hmm. Whereas we all know, and I'm sure we can think about moments and people in our lives where when help was either asked for, or even if you didn't ask for help, when it's genuine and it's authentic and it happens, you don't even think twice. You're just like, this is you just have gratitude and you have a sense of calm. And I think we've likely all been in the position of either offering help, unconditional, or not really needing the recognition. And we've been in the position of receiving help. So that vulnerability is a big part of it.
That's a really good point. So I know someone in my life who I guess I guess there's like a set of rules between us that we've never said out loud. But like I understand them. And And this is a person who will, offer to do something for you, but the rule is you're supposed to say no, thank you. Like the expectation is that you're going to go, "Oh, no, 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 I could never ask you to do that." And if you break the rule and accept their help, they're mad at you, right? Like if you say, "Oh, yes, thank you. I would love for your help with that. That's really, I appreciate that." I can immediately sense they're like, "You jerk, Kate. Kate, you weren't supposed to accept my offer." Which means it wasn't a genuine offer.
Yes.
And even though I'm saying, I may, if there are people like that in my life, I may not be as close to them. I mean, this is someone who has a pretty significant role in my life. And yet I'd still like us to be closer, but these things make it hard. There's apparently a set of rules to our relationship that I need to follow. And it creates this kind of landmine system for me to navigate. Like, I've got to sort of read this person's mind and know if this is a genuine offer of help or one of those more performative ones where it's just meant to make them look like a good person and I'm supposed to say, "Oh, no, no, no. No, I could never ask you to, come help me move. No, thanks for the offer, but I could never." And I guess I've just learned to understand over the years that those are the rules. They're going to offer help and I'm supposed to say no, and that keeps everybody happy. Or what an example that might be familiar to our listeners is like when you go out to dinner with someone and they do the like fake reach for their wallet, but they're not really going to offer to pay. They're
Yes.
pretending like they're going to offer to pay, and they're just waiting for you to go, "Oh, no, 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 it's on me." And I also have a relationship in my life where I know that's kind of how it goes. Like they're gonna pretend to reach for the purse, and
Yes.
I'm gonna say, "Oh, no, 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 I got this," and they're gonna say, "Oh, thanks, Kate." And this is just like the song and dance we do.
Yes. Yes. I'm completely familiar with. We have a rule amongst my friends is, well, we always talk about it, which was funny, is early on when we would start going out for dinner. we would say, you have to offer twice. You have to say, oh, come on, I'll split it with you. And then you get the no. Oh, come on, you sure? And then after that, it's okay. And over the years, and some of my friends, we've had relationships and friendships since elementary school. So we're going over 40 years. We now, it's there's a comfort in going out to dinner and just looking at each other and saying, I got this. And okay, cool.
Yeah.
Or, all right, we're just gonna split it, 5 ways. And there's no, well, I got an appetizer or I got more, or going back and forth. It's just like there's just a comfort in just saying. So I completely hear what you're saying, is that we all have different rules in our relationships, and some of them are straightforward, and some of them are performative, where you're like, okay, we're gonna go through this. You're gonna offer. I'm gonna say, you sure? Offer one more time. There's this script, I guess, that all of us kind of create in our relationships. But I'm curious for you. How does that feel when it? Because what I'm hearing is that there's some acceptance. Like, okay, like this is just how it is. But would you want it to be different?
Yeah. Yeah. Both, right? There's some acceptance, and you can see me, the listeners cannot, but you also watch me kind of shrug, like, oh, I don't know.
Mhm.
Um, I I can accept these things. I can accept them because that keeps me sane. Like if
Sure.
I were gonna, starting today, fight all these fights and insist that everyone be truly authentic all the time, I think life would get really hard for me. I think it would be hard to demand that kind of authenticity all the time from people. And so acceptance kind of just keeps the world moving, like it is, it is what it is. But i
Sure.
can i can accept this is the reality and keep going. And I would also like for it to be different. I would prefer if, when people ask me, hey Kate, how you doing, they're really asking me how you doing. It's not performative. It's not, we're just saying our lines here. They're just going to say, how are you doing, and I'm just going to say, fine, thanks, how are you. And these are just lines that we repeat, and we just sing our songs and do our dances and keep moving. I do crave a much more honest world, where when someone says, Kate, how are you doing, I could say, you know what, I'm not doing so well, can I tell you about that? But you know the rules in society. You can't do that. You can't stop on the street and be like, I'm so glad you asked, I'm really having a hard day. You're supposed to say, I'm fine, thanks, how are you? And
Absolutely.
so I wish it were different, and I can accept this to a degree. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And when we're talking about performative helping, and we have uh some relationships where, yeah, this is just, we're comfortable with how that is right now, and we don't need it to shift or change. But there are some relationships that, if we could, we would change it. And I'm kind of going a little bit into work relationships, or when you're working on a project where the performative helping will feel, the effect that it has is not just in a personal transaction. Then there's work, and there's other people at work that are seeing things. And so one of the things I'm thinking of is when you're called into a meeting, and you're excited because you're kind of hearing like, oh, we're gonna partner, we're gonna get everyone's voice. And it was all performative because the
Mm.
decisions were made already. But your name is going to be on that summary of, we had a committee and here were the committee members. And
Oh.
it's almost like, that doesn't feel too good. So when you're in a situation where you might want it to change, but also it's a little different, because it might be harder to change when you're in a work dynamic, when you're working with different departments, or if you're working in situations where you have a little less control over the performative helping.
Such a good example. I love this example. I'm just going to sort of say it again because I'm afraid sometimes listeners
Yeah.
miss our examples.
Yeah.
So that scenario that I think will be very familiar to folks. The big bosses have made some decision. They want to make it look like they've consulted the team. So they call the team in to say, we wanted to hear from you. We wanted to consult with you. But it becomes clear they've already made all their decisions. And minutes are going to get released to the whole organization that say, well, we consulted with the team and they agree and everybody's happy about this. And it's like, man, I just got used. That wasn't helping me. That was a performative meeting to make it seem like we're all on the same team here. But it was obvious that the rules are I'm just supposed to nod and smile and clap along for all the decisions that have been made. It is such a good example, Ravi. So many people listening will be like, "Oh, yeah, I've seen that."
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And when we don't have control, or it's something that's you mentioned supervisors or bosses. Clearly, there's hierarchy there, and we want to there's small picture and big picture uh, issues that we kind of face at work every day. And I'm wondering, like, one of the things I'm thinking for the listeners is, well, what do we do when that happens? Because we know it's
Mm.
going to happen. That's just whether it's because they're getting that from their bosses, or all the different factors and reasons that we can kind of share. And also, it still impacts us. So one of the first things I was thinking was when you feel as though your voice isn't being heard, it lends to creating a lack of trust. It lends to disconnection. It lends to, hmm, like now I see how this is going to work. And
Mhm.
the first thing I thought of was, okay, well, I can wait till the meeting's over, or wait till that happened, and maybe pull one or two people and just kind of share, hey, this is just how I felt about this, and it might be that this continues, but if there's anything we can do to maybe shift this, I'd
Mhm.
appreciate it, because I respond better when I'm involved in collaboration and I'm genuinely involved. But if
Yeah.
I'm there, or that's the first thing I was thinking. And then the second thing is, as you mentioned earlier, uh, with friendships, is a level of acceptance of, okay, now I know that this is going to happen, and uh, I don't have to agree with it, but also I have a choice on how I respond to this, and I
Mhm.
can uh, I can learn to just kind of navigate some of the ways in which I interact in these meetings or in these situations. But the bigger picture is that it might be out of my control. What are,
Yeah.
what are your thoughts about that?
Mm. Well, yeah, I think I'm glad that you're raising like how do we respond or even that we have a choice on how we respond because I think that's the most productive way to use this podcast time is like not just raising problems but like what else can we do um and I think it'll ultimately be for a lot of people like a cost benefit analysis like what is it going to cost me to have this honest conversation versus what do I gain from it, and there will be some situations where folks might think the cost is too high, like the cost to like have to talk to my boss and give this feedback might be too high for what I might gain from it, but I guess I'm kind of hoping that like in some situations people might think it's this is worth it. This is worth whatever it may cost me to have this honest conversation. Like especially in our personal relationships, um I have some friends who say their husbands only offer to help with the dishes when they can see that they're on like the last dish. Like like I had a friend recently say, I will get 90% of the way through all the dishes, and that's when he walks by to say, do you need any help? And of course she's gonna say, no, I'm just about done. So his offer was performative. It was just to be like, well, I offered. I think there, you can have a conversation with your spouse and say, it might be better if you offered your help a little bit earlier in this process. Or once in a while, get to the dishes before me or something like that. I think there are going to be times where you do the cost benefit analysis and say, this is worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the you just like activated me a little bit when it's like, I'll wait until there's a last dish, because then I start to think um kind of similar. I'll wait and do things maybe on Sundays when there's when there's a football game going on, so that
Yeah.
I'm going to get more of a reward when I'm doing something performative. And of course, this is very, biased towards sports and biased towards, but just coming up with like examples of, I'm going to do something when I want something in return, right? And
Yeah.
or I'm going to do something when it's easy, and I'll wait until we just had snow that came down on the East Coast, and uh, you can say, well, I've shoveled 3/4 of the driveway, and then someone performatively comes out and says, oh man, I'm going to come help you. I didn't realize that you were out there. That uh, a little bit of there's unintentional performative helping where the person may not have that insight or they may not have control. And then there is true intentional performative helping where someone is only going to offer the help when it suits them and
Yeah.
when they're able to get recognition. And um, you know, we might have to have a part two about the impact of social media on performative helping.
Mm.
Mm.
Yeah, well, it's funny that that is a little bit how it came up last time is like, um, sort of the people who will post things on social media to make themselves look like they're so socially active, but like they're not really doing anything but posting stuff on social media. So yes, we can dive into that. But I think I want to go back to what you said just before the social media part.
Right.
And you mentioned there may be many ways that this comes up. Some of it may be a little bit more innocent than others. Some of it may have been like, I truly didn't know you were shoveling the driveway until you were at the tail end of it. And I'm really sorry that I'm only catching this now. Or I really didn't know you were doing the dishes and I just happened to walk by and there you are on the last one. So sometimes it is, oops, it's an accident. It's not performative. It is poor
That's right.
timing or something like that. And then there are times when a person is doing this performative helping to score some points. And I think another fun follow-up episode, Ravi, would be like the point systems in life. Like what these points for that we're scoring with each other and who's keeping track and when do you lose points and how do you gain points and wouldn't it be nice if there were no point system. um but there does seem to be this point system in life, and I think that could be a really fun topic to explore. Like, what does that all mean? Because I do think the heart of a lot of performative helping is I'm trying to score some points here. I'm trying to get some points in my column that say, hey, I'm a good person. Look at me. I reached for my wallet when you took me out to dinner. Look, that got me some points, right? Or I offered to help you shovel the driveway. Didn't that get me some points? I put that link on social media that said I care about things. Doesn't that get me some points? Or at work, volunteering to do way more than you're expected to do, but it gets you some points with the boss. It might also lose you some points with your colleagues.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think we could say a lot
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, there's what is performative helping, and then there's the like motivation behind the performative helping. And I'm hoping that the listeners today can kind of take this episode as there's more to kind of dissect and there's more to lean into. And while we, as I mentioned earlier, it might be a buzzword or it might just be coming more to the forefront because people are identifying and calling it out for what it is, which is
Yeah.
it's just overall it's just not a good feeling. The when you're on the receiving end of performative helping, uh, there is definitely a space where there's points where there it feels icky, there's manipulation. So when we feel it and when we see it, it's just kind of leaning into it some more. And maybe with each relationship, it'll be a little different, whether it's work or it's personal or family. And going through, as you said, like, oof, that point system can go really far back. If we start to track, when was the last time someone gave me a ride or someone offered me a ride to the airport? Or when was the last time that they did this for me? And, these are just things that when we're trying to set boundaries, I'm sure there's a level of thinking about these things, but also when the intention is I want to do it to get my points. I want to do it
Nice.
because I want to make sure that they're seeing that I'm doing this. It can be very complex, for sure.
Yeah, I think that was a beautiful summary as we're winding down here. And I only want to add one thing, which is um, we're running out of time, and I'm realizing we probably spent a lot of time focused on, other people are doing this. Watch out for other people. I think if we were to do a part two, Ravi, it might be more like encouraging everyone to look inward and try to find ways to recognize when we might be the ones performative and doing the performative helping. So to the listeners, if you're listening and feeling tempted to start listing, oh yeah, my sister does that, and my best friend does that, and my husband does that, and it could feel good to sit there while you're driving the car listening to the podcast and thinking, yeah, all these people in my life, they're just being performative. Please take a pause, because they're probably not the only ones. It's probably all of us at times. So I always want to remember and encourage people to look in the mirror a little bit. Try to identify the times that maybe you yourself are doing a little bit of performative helping. That maybe we all do it here and there. And so rather than being outraged at everybody about it, we can acknowledge, all right, I've done it too, but let's all be a little bit better.
Yeah, and that's one of it's a hard thing to do if we've been doing it for such a long time, is to reflect and look back on ourselves, but also it just to me leads to being more authentic to who you are. And it leads to just being yourself and letting the universe, letting life happen. And when we do recognize that this is happening on small levels, if we're doing it to other people unintentionally, intentionally, just being okay with the fact that we've recognized it, and now we can have intention to not do it. That's all.
I'm glad we had this talk.
Yeah.
I always am. I always am. I think this is becoming now like a bigger thread. Like it started with the last season episode about, performative donating and things like that. And now we're talking a little bit more about kind of seeing this in other people. I think one day we could maybe revisit either the point system or looking inward at the times that we're the ones being performative. So there's definitely more to come. Thanks, Robbie. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me, as always.
Take me in your arms. I don't want to miss a day without you. Let's stay young forever. There is nothing we can't do. And nothing can break us apart when we're together, facing the sky. We know that we can fly on the wings of love, and we can climb on every mountain top. I never knew eternity was real till I met you. Since that day, I live in a dream.